Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to do one of those conversations that I really love doing at the end of the year. Today I'm going to talk to you about the 5 most impactful events that took place in the year 2022 in the United States. So I'm going to identify and briefly discuss 5 events that have had the most impact on the United States in the year 2022. Now, it's quite possible that I might not speak about an event which is discrete, but perhaps a trend, which I'm going to be calling as an impactful event of 2022. But before I go ahead and identify what those 5 events are, if you are visiting Khanversations for the first time, or have not subscribed to it, please subscribe to Khanversations, ring the bell icon, like the video, and do share it with your colleagues, your friends, with your students, and with your political network. So I consider the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe versus Wade, and for the first time in 50 years in America, reverse the trend of progressive development of individual rights and women's rights in this country. So in a Supreme Court decision, in the summer of 2022, the Supreme Court basically overturned Roe versus Wade, which gave women control over their bodies, which gave them the right to abortion, which considered the right to abortion as a constitutional guarantee, and the Supreme Court has decided that it is not a constitutionally guaranteed right, and so essentially has pushed back women's rights significantly, you could say, up to 5 decades behind on a national level. What it has also done is it has divided America into red states and blue states even more emphatically. So there are states where women will have rights, as if 2022 did not happen, but there will be states where women will not have any freedom when it comes to their reproductive activities and on abortion issues. In fact, it is quite possible it might also expose many women to perhaps risk their lives in trying to get abortions illegally, or even put them in legal jeopardy when they travel to get abortion to other states. So this was, I think, clearly a major cultural event in the United States, which set the U.S. back, enhanced or increased the chasm between the conservatives and the liberals in this country. In the long run, it is definitely not going to be good for the country. But I also want to point out that the reason why this has happened is because we talk about Donald Trump trying to conduct a coup on January 6th to basically try and use some kind of violence and public agitation to overturn the elections of November 2020 and reinstate himself as president, even though he lost the election, and that a coup was attempted. But the real coup, which Donald Trump did conduct democratically and successfully, was to appoint 3 judges to the Supreme Court. All of them are very conservative, and all of them are reasonably young. So it is possible that Donald Trump will have an impact on America's culture, America's values, and how the Supreme Court understands and interprets America's Constitution for a long, long time, perhaps next 20, 30 years. So this particular decision by the Supreme Court highlights all of those things, and therefore I consider it as the most impactful event of 2022. The second most impactful event is actually 2 events which I consider as quite impactful: the infrastructure bill that was signed and the inflation reduction bill. Both of these bills, the first one was a bipartisan bill, and these bills are very important because for the first time in a long time, billions of dollars are going to be invested into America's infrastructure, into building roads, into building bridges, repairing bridges, and also increasing access to internet and digital access, and also helping to some extent with the energy crisis. America is a great country. We are one of the richest countries in the world. We are very advanced, but even America needs to modernize. And I still feel that the bill was not enough. We need to invest heavily into public transport, into speed trains, into having the kind of transportation which will make it easy. I live in Delaware, and I'm 150 miles from New York and 100 miles from Washington, D.C. If I could take a train to New York and get there in 30 minutes, if I could take a train to DC and get there in 20 minutes, I will be so much more productive. I will even be richer. I will actually have a real consulting business. And so I see that public transport is holding America back. The lack of public transport is holding America back. So we really need to invest in our infrastructure, especially transportation, and hopefully this is a beginning. The Inflation Reduction Bill has an important component. Besides also trying to negotiate the medication for Medicare and reduce the prices of all the medicines that our seniors buy. It has also nearly $450 billion for climate change, to deal with climate issues. And I think that those incentives and those, shall we say, policies which will help American companies move towards green energy and motivate people to convert their homes into to solar powered, move towards electric cars is all good for the climate. And I think this is the biggest investment that America has made in our climate. 2022 is also the year in which my roof also went solar, so I consider this as a major development. And that bill incentivizes going solar. The third event that I think has had a great impact on the United States is the midterm elections. The midterm elections, usually the party of the president loses, but the fact that the Democrats lost the Congress with a very narrow margin and they gained in the U.S. Senate clearly shows that there is a change in the political culture of our country. I'm sure that the overturning of Roe versus Wade did play a huge role, and for the first time, Democrats seem to be benefiting from culture wars. It reminded me of the 2004 election where gay marriage issues helped George W. Bush. So culture wars that usually tend to help bring out the conservative vote and helps the Republican Party. But this time, it motivated women, educated women, college-going women, minority women to really get engaged in politics and help the Democrats perform very well in the midterm elections. The fourth major event that I see is this return to a Cold War-like scenario with China, the tensions over Taiwan, the disagreements over Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and the growing disagreements on trade issues and on how to deal with pandemics, etc., between the U.S. and China is taking us rapidly towards a situation where we will see the world divided into two. President Biden already talks about the world divided along authoritarian states versus democratic states, and he sees himself and the U.S. as leader of the democratic world. But I think that this development, especially over Taiwan, is not a good thing for the United States and for the rest of the world, because a Cold War-like situation will definitely have an impact on the quality of democracy. There will be more attention paid to war and weapons, and you can see that in the U.S. budget. And the Congress gave $45 billion more than the president requested, and our budget is now over $800 billion. We are rapidly approaching $1 trillion. America's defense budget is more than the GDP of over 150 countries. So this Cold War-like tension with China is rapidly becoming a reality, and it has done much of that in 2022. And so I see that as an impactful development. It impacts America's defense and security policies and its foreign policy. It also will impact our trade and investments. It will bring India and America closer, but it will also increase tensions and have financial consequences because we will be restructuring the supply chains that we have built with China in the last 2 or 3 decades. And finally, one of the most impactful developments of 2022 is the awareness of domestic terrorism in the United States. The January 6th coup insurgency highlighted the fact that there are lots and lots of individuals who are willing to act as lone wolves, are willing to commit violence. The attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband, the groups that try to take the governor of Michigan hostage. So we have seen many such events that clearly point out to the existence of groups and individuals who are beholden to radical ideologies, which has created a climate of intolerance in this country. There are extremists, and it's quite likely that they will be committing more and more acts of domestic terrorism. The only silver lining that I see with regards to this issue is that the November midterm elections basically were conducted quite peacefully, and there has been no major violent incidents subsequently, and most people accepted the outcomes with reasonable dignity. So that's a positive thing. But I feel that one of the major events in 2022 is the widespread acknowledgement and recognition that America has a domestic terrorism problem. So I hope you found these thoughts interesting, beneficial. I hope they provoke thought and discussion and dialogue with you. You can respond in the comment sections. You can discuss this with your friends and family. And so please, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all of you. 2022 was a very fascinating year. It has had a tremendous impact on America and also on the rest of the world. I will be doing similar videos about impactful events in the world, in India, and perhaps also in the Middle East. So do tune in again to view those videos and continue the dialogue about the year 2022. So, and also have a happy new year, and we pray that 2023 is more peaceful and most prosperous and more free of pandemics. This is Muqtedar Khan. If you have not subscribed to Khanversations, please do share the video, like the video, and press the bell icon. Thank you very much for watching.